Today, BMW announced the 2025 update for their 1000cc sports and naked bikes, including the up-spec'd M versions. So in this video, we'll go through all of the details with everything that you need to know about them. Now first up, we'll go with the S1000R, their inline 4-powered sporty naked. And I guess the most apparent thing that's changed about this bike is the new front end, which is significantly different to the previous generation. That bike had a fairly traditional looking single headlight, but new for 2025, they've gone with a twin headlight design that's more in keeping with the sports bikes in this lineup. So the S1000RR and M1000RR, both of those get twin headlights and also have the same sort of daytime running light that goes along the bottom. So yeah, it does make it a more consistent looking family of bikes, I'd say, and also maybe pulls this model more so in line with some of the other modern nakeds on the market, like the new CB1000 Hornet from Honda or even the Ducati Street Fighter V4. Now, whether it's to keep up with the competition or to make their own lineup more consistent, who knows, but personally, I quite like the new visual direction they've gone in with this bike. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Now, there are some significant tweaks under the hood as well though, starting with the engine. So there's a new geometry for the intake ports and also a new map. And these two things combined have helped to generate an extra 5 horsepower peak, so it now makes 170 horsepower up at the same 11,000 RPM. Peak torque remains the same, so 114 Newton meters at 9,250, but it still might feel quite a bit snappier under acceleration because you've got a shorter second gear for this new model year, and also a short stroke throttle grip, which is part of the M lineup of parts, and it's also new on all of the other bikes in this video. Now the engine, of course, is now Euro 5 Plus compliant, so it meets the latest emissions regulations, but the other big change for this model is the fact that they've made quite a few features standard that were previously paid for add-ons. Mainly, they're with the electronics, so drag torque control, which prevents rear wheel lockups under heavy downshifts, but it does it electronically, not like a mechanical slipper clutch. That comes as standard now, along with adjustable engine braking. And then there's also a short license plate holder, a USB-C charging socket, and on top of that, their intelligent emergency e-call system, which basically notifies BMW's call center if it detects a crash or if you use the manual button, which is next to the switchgear. Lastly, on this one, you've got some new paint jobs, and I've got to say that this blue and lime green version with the lime green also on the subframe looks pretty flipping good to me. Now, also getting some updates is the M1000R, which is the more premium high-spec version of the S1000R. And again, I think the biggest change is that it does indeed get the same new face, which really does define that front end. This one doesn't get any bumping power though, but it was already 210 horsepower peak, which I think ought to be enough for most of us. And of course, like any other bike at the moment, again, it's Euro 5 Plus compliant. It does get, however, the short stroke throttle, which they say is especially noticeable on this bike in the race mode when you use it on the track. And also, traction control has been revised with new settings that trickle down from the S1000RR and M1000RR. From a styling perspective, we've got a few new color options here. So the base variant comes in light white with the M Sport graphics or white aluminium metallic matte. But on top of that, you can pay a little bit extra for the M Comp package, which gets you a whole bunch of goodies as well as the Blackstone metallic paint job, again with the M Sport graphics. Now also updated is the S1000RR sports bike, which is one of the best sports bike on the market, I think it has to be said. And having been lucky enough to try it out on the track last year at a BMW press event, I've got to say it absolutely blew me away. This one gets new styling as well, so you've got some tweaks to the bodywork. There's some kind of gills on the side, but it's asymmetrical, so it's got more of a big outlet on the other side. And generally, it just looks a little bit more angular to me. And so I'd love to know what you think of these tweaks down in the comments. Those changes are mainly on the side though. I will say the sort of main face of the bike, the twin headlights has stayed largely the same, although the winglets have had a major tweak, which I think makes it look quite a bit wider at the front, but also apparently has a significant improvement in terms of the downforce generated. Now, BMW claim at 300 kilometers per hour, which is around 185 miles per hour, downforce numbers go from about 17 kilograms up to 23. So fair enough, that is quite a significant increase if you just look at those numbers. Although how many of us will actually go 185 miles per hour even on the track? Well, that's probably a topic for debate. They also say from an aerodynamics perspective, they've put significant work into the front mudguard area, so they've helped to improve the airflow around the fork legs and the brake calipers, and also integrated some brake cooling ducts, which should help to reduce temperature under heavy track use, and that's going to lead to more consistent braking performance. As for the engine, well, again, you're getting 210 horsepower peak, although it does get that short stroke throttle, which now only requires, they say, 58 degrees of rotation instead of the previous 72. So they say there's less of a requirement to reposition your wrist if you do want to get it wide open. On the electronics front, they say the Pro Riding Modes feature now comes as standard, which opens up a whole bunch of additional features and settings. So there's the Race Pro Riding Mode, 2 more throttle response and drive torque settings, engine brake adjustment, hill start control pro functions, 5 levels of ABS adjustment, and a slick setting for the ABS along with dynamic brake control. So quite the package, although I'd probably suggest this is only really going to be relevant to people who are seriously looking to get the most of their bike out on the track. And for the majority of road users, the standard settings are probably fine and it's realistically not going to be a deal breaker. Now for 2025, this one comes in 3 color schemes with a Black Storm Metallic base model, a sport version in Bluestone Metallic, which might be my pick of the bunch actually. Or if you want something that looks a bit more fancy, you can pay for that M package and get the light white Union M Sport graphics, which is admittedly a bit of an iconic look for this bike. Top of the lineup though is the M1000RR sports bike, which is the super duper homologation special that gets the absolute works in terms of spec, tech and performance. New engine internals such as revised titanium valves, an increase in compression ratio, new oval shaped ports, a new airbox geometry, larger throttle valves and a new shape for the combustion chamber mean there's a 6 horsepower increase at the top of the revs, with a peak of 218 horses at the same 14,500 RPM. Now this one also gets updated winglets, except these ones make 30 kilograms of downforce at the same 300 kilometers per hour. And again, it also gets that new short stroke throttle. The frame, they also say, has been tweaked ever so slightly with new stiffness values at the steering head, and also they've moved one of the engine mounts as well. And you've also got some new electronics like the slide control with the steering angle sensor, along with a new ABS package that includes brake slide assist and also the slick tire setting. This one comes as standard in the white, or again like the M1000R, if you pay for the M Comp package, it's the Black Storm Metallic, and all the carbon parts on this bike are finished with a matte look. So look, some nice tweaks here and there, although it does feel like they've largely been updated to meet Euro 5 Plus emissions regulations, and so there's nothing hugely substantial. It doesn't feel like an update where you must immediately upgrade, but all the same, some nice little advancements here and there. I think the biggest change that could possibly affect someone's buying decision is that new headlight on the R models, which really does change the look of it. And so yeah, I'd love to know what you think of that down in the comments below. Also, if you want to see my review of the previous gen S1000RR, then I'll put that on the screen now so you can give it a click and give it a watch. Also, do hit subscribe if you want to see more of the latest motorcycle news like this right here on MOTOBOB. A massive thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next video.